10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us on this August 5th, 2025. Coming at you live each and every weekday morning between 7:30-ish and 8:30 a.m. on CKLU 96.7 FM terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live on the internet at cklu.ca. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can stream us. If you download the same app, you can take us with you. Listen to this show along with any other CKLU show on the internet, on the Radio Player Canada app, on your favorite device. So we're glad to have you on. We're glad to be on. We weren't on yesterday. It was a holiday. We'll be on tomorrow. And then unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have a show on Thursday, Friday this week, but we will see. I'll see if I can have a solution for the road, and we could go from there. I've always wanted to have something. I just haven't had anything that worked in a hotel room or whatever, other than just my phone, and we couldn't do a full show with that. But anyways, it is what it is. We'll see what we can do before then. You just never know. And we're also streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow the channel and the page. We'll also be found on demand on those two platforms, along with x.com/Sudbury News and Sudbury.news, which is our local news aggregator. Aggregates all the local news onto one webpage. It's our answer to the federal government's policies that makes it impossible to share any news, whether it's international, national, regional, local news on Facebook, the world's largest platform for social media. And it is what it is. So that's the kind of country we live in. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We believe that our country is descending. It's descending rapidly and on purpose. As far as I can see, I can't see any other. Either it's incompetence or it's on purpose. It seems more and more that it's more to the on purpose side. But anyways, we're descending. We are in free fall. And if we're going to land, we're not sure how things are going to look after that. Our country's basically been being assimilated and disseminated. And we're going to be, I guess, watching it happen and talking about it as it happens. As much as we want to do something about it, which I guess it's in the power of the people, but the people have to be united in order to make this happen, I believe. And that is something that seems more and more unlikely as time goes on, as much as I'd love to be able to say that it's anything other than that. There's just too many factors in my research and in my observations that point to the impossibility of saving what was once Canada, I guess only for a short period of time, because Canada before 200 years ago was obviously something totally different. So for a short period of time, we had Canada. In the history of the world, if you look at the entire history of the world, it was just a blip on your screen that we enjoyed for many years, and wasn't perfect, but it was pretty darn awesome. So we're seeing the fact that we reached our peak, I guess, of prosperity, and from here on in, we're going to see the opposite of that. We're going to see a free fall from prosperity into disparity. Anyways, I don't know where that came from. It's just something that I've really been contemplating, because I know a lot of people have a lot of hope for salvaging or reigniting or saving what was once this great country. And a lot of people, for whatever it's worth, still look at it as great. They don't notice anything's changing behind the scenes. They don't really follow what's really going on. And so to them, it's just business as usual, driving to work, working, coming home, routine. Sure, the groceries might be a little more expensive. The gas is a little more expensive, but just on the surface, nothing seems all that different. We do notice a change in our population too. And we're like, oh, that's good. That's great, because we need more diversity. You know, they might see some things, and as they watch CBC or CTV, they just see, you know, answers given to them of what's going on around the world, around their country, and they'll take that for whatever it's worth, and nothing to see here. You know, all is well in Canada, so to speak. And yeah, it's anything but. Things are being done behind the scenes. Bills are being passed unprecedentedly. Like, I've never seen anything like this in my life, to set up something for another country. If you look at all the bills that are being passed and you ask yourself, what type of leaders would make these types of bills that would suppress economic prosperity and, you know, helping the country economically? What kind of country would suppress all of those things, put us extremely in debt, or make very poor economic decisions? However, you can see an ideology that they adhere to, that they give all their money to. If you look at the billions of dollars we give to other countries, what we're giving the money for, you can see what they believe in, what their religion is, kind of thing, or what they are supporting worldwide. And you look at what they're doing at home, you look at the foreign interference that doesn't have any repercussions. I think we have 11 ministers that have been named that we don't know who they are, who direct ties to foreign entities. All kinds of things going on in our country, that bills being passed for now. Censorship is coming up big time. Digital currencies, medical assistance in dying. Like, if you look at all the things that we're passing, you ask yourself, what country do they envision in the future? Wow. But most people don't look into those things. We'll do our best to shed a little bit of light on some of them today. And if you're like, wow, what is this guy talking about? I have no idea. Just stay tuned for the whole show, or just, if you're watching on demand, just fast forward towards the end, and we do our best to give a little bit deeper dive into some of the things I've just been alluding to, and actually name the bills, what the bills are about that we're passing, what the repercussions are. And there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of issues. If you look at the immigration policies, that has huge impact on our housing and on our employment. If you look at that alone, and you look at the drugs that are allowed to be distributed in this country, and if you look at the government's policy on giving away free drugs to everyone, and that's their answer to the drug problem. Like, there's a drug problem, so give more free drugs to everyone. Does that even make any sense whatsoever when you just put it that way? There's that. There's criminal activities going on left, right, and center. There's no checks and balances in our federal government. And once you see stuff like that, and you see people having less confidence in our system, you start seeing society start to crumble. We have crimes, speaking of that, which is way up. Violent crime everywhere in the country is up, and it's not coming down. Auto thefts alone, just break and enters, people just walking up to people and doing harm to them. People are feeling less safe. There's the way our legal system is operating. That's changing. Everything's changing. Everything's being dismantled piece by piece. Hundreds and thousands of moving parts going on if you really look at it. And then you say, well, we can stop that. we can rise up and everyone just has to work together. Well, in order to work together, everyone has to be informed. And it's really hard to be informed. And once you are informed, they'll try and dupe you for a while, but then they start using force. And once they start using force, they have all of the power in terms of policing power, law power, surveillance cameras, everything, banking. They can debank you, which is they're starting to do now too. So the country really is unraveling, and we're watching it in real time. We're watching it in free fall, and we're just basically going to, I guess, discuss it as it happens. I guess we're like live here in the middle of the tornado, and you're being blown away by the wind. The waves are coming in pretty strong. The winds, the rain is just hitting us in the face. Those guys that go out in the storms. That's kind of like what we're at right now, just kind of watching it happen. And it is like a storm. It's a storm against the norm. It's a storm against common sense. It's a storm against natural law. It's a storm that is raging, and we'll just see how it all ends. Anyways, let's dive in with a little bit of weather. Make sure to comment. Do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those reading, read for those listening. Weather first, some local headlines, deep dive, a little discussion. We'll be back with more right after this. And weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Currently, it is 13 degrees, partly cloudy out there. Today, sunny. Local smoke, that's a new thing too, right? As of the last 2 years, smoke everywhere. You getting used to that yet? So that's a sign on a more global scale, not just Canada, of some of the things going on, that your world indeed is changing. So now there's local smoke. This afternoon, high of 25, humidex 28 or high. Tonight, clear and local smoke with a low of 14. Wednesday, tomorrow, sunny in the morning, then a mix of sun and cloud with a 30% chance of showers in the afternoon, local smoke, and a high of 27. Humidex 32, UV index 7 or very high, cloudy periods, low of 17. So that's the next 2 days. And then Thursday, 29 and sunny. Friday, 30% chance of showers, 28. Also 30% chance of showers on Saturday and Sunday, 30 degrees. Almost 30 degrees, 29 degrees for both those days. And then on Monday, 25 and a 60% chance of showers. And that is your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay. And so many comments this morning. There's a few of you on. A good chunk of people so far. And Nana, first to the YouTube party. Good morning, sunshine. Hope you enjoyed some great downtime. Blessings, everyone. Yes, heart emoji. Went to Santa's Village with the little guy, our grandsons, and my children. And so my wife and some friends and their children. It was just really great. And met up with my sister and their family and Santa's Village. It's a really great place to go if you haven't been or you haven't been in a while. They got a new roller coaster that was too scary for me even. Went on it, had to keep my eyes closed the whole time. Enjoy it, and you got to enjoy life. And you have to, it's one of the great treasures that we have in driving distance from here. But we first went to North Bay, which has a really great waterfront. They have a train, they have some carousels, and a really beautiful beach with a huge park. It was like, why couldn't Sudbury do anything just remotely like this? Something simple, something for the whole family. A little train that you pay $2 to get on for the little kiddies. You go around in a circle. They have 2 wonderful carousels, for the little ones. It's fantastic. Even for the big ones, to watch the little ones have a great time. $2 a ride. A couple days ago was their 100th anniversary, their centennial for the city of North Bay. And rides were $1 instead of $2. And then they have the waterfront. They have a boat that just turned into a restaurant, and they have a pavilion where they do activities. And, it's just, and myself and a Nick, who was there, just asked her, why can't we do something like this in Sudbury? You know what I mean? Like what was preventing something like this from happening? We have a larger city. We have more resources, more money, and just can't do something simple like this. I just don't understand. It's just interesting. Good morning, Judy on Facebook. Thanks for being with us. And Denise, blessings everyone. Hazel, good morning prayer emoji. Same to you, Hazel, much needed. And Larry, good morning from Sudbury, Ontario. Good morning, everyone. Yes. Good morning from Sudbury. And Vin, good morning to you. Minik, good morning. Sudbury, cool shade emoji. And Pat, good morning, everyone. Peace sign, smiley emoji, probably sunshine emoji. Sheila, good morning from Quebec. Got the smiley emoji going on too. Feeling the love. And Brian, good morning to you. Northern Hillbilly, good morning, people. Belinda, good morning. The devil doesn't sell darkness. He sells fake light that blinds people to the truth. Keep speaking the truth loudly and bravely. Triple heart emoji. We'll never stop doing that. That's the least we can do. You'll never stop doing that. Even if we're in free fall, you can never give up the individual fight and the fight for the individual's understanding and mind and just well-being in general, right? So people are going to be very confused coming up very shortly. They'll be told by the media, so some will just keep hanging on to that CBC narrative just like it's a religion. But I think a lot of people will even realize they've been duped after a while, and they'll be very confused as to what's going on. But we'll do our best to help everyone out. Larry, yes, it is getting worse day by day, and Canada is going to fail if we don't stand soon, right? So there's that hope again. If we stand, so we got to stand. So let's all stand, But unless there's a total committed, united effort somehow, and we're linked to other countries too. It's not just Canada where we rise. There's other global entities that have their tentacles woven through our country as well, right? So we rise up while they can flex muscles too. And so again, right, you just got to talk about the whole story and take in all the factors of what's going on and what are we going to be able to do about it. Never say die. See, here's that hope. It's just like, I have hope too. It's just, I think the muscles they got to flex in this particular circumstance, in this world, and the ability and what's been already kind of earmarked to happen. It's, I think it's just, I'm better off acknowledging. Again, we talk about truth, right? If we really talk about truth, what's truly going to happen? If we really, really look at things here in the country, what's truly going to happen? Now we wish for something to happen. We hope that something different happens, but what is really going to happen? Like what is really going to happen? It's when you look at all of the facts and all of the factors, and you know what it takes to thwart what's coming. And there are going to be those, and it is going to happen, just not in a way that we think it's going to happen. I think it's going to get really bad. And then there's a faction of people that will be able to rely on a higher power. And if we don't go that route, it doesn't matter what you do. To stand physically against their physical. If you want to physically stand against what they have physically, if you want to take them on head on with their, in their realm, you'll lose. You're going to lose. They got everything they need in this realm. You have to elevate higher than that. And I think that's the real, I guess, realization is what's going to be happening with people, is that there's something higher than this, physical world that we're in. And it's going to be something we're going to have to evolve to realize at some point. Okay, so I guess it's a complicated thing that I'm trying to explain in simplicity, and I know a lot of you are on the same page, but Miles, good morning. Only really taking the independent journalist broadcast these days. The legacy news doesn't seem to get it. Trump's our enemy, according to them, right? Everything is, he's the wild card. He's the scapegoat. Trump, bad orange guy. Yeah, that's as simple as they have it, right? But it's way more complicated than that if you really look at what's going on. Belinda says Goonies. And Sheila says bills to be legal to have open parliament, not bills being passed. They're mandates, ? Yeah, we remember those. Oh, and we all seem to be aggressized in climate change spin, even though our country only affects less than 1% of the world's climate. For sure. Hopefully we have time for that this morning. We're going to have to dive in soon. So let's get to that. Noticed how many times planes are coming to Sudbury? Just saying, they're flooding the north with their invading people. For sure. And definitely we are an open city for that, right? Publicly, our city is open for business for people coming to Canada. And we've said that we definitely want to increase our population with newcomers, right? And sometimes there's good aspects to that along with the bad, but definitely the way they're going about it, economically speaking and socially speaking, it's really aggressive, and it's not all good. Like, there are some downsides to it as well, right? Even if you're totally positive about it, you have to acknowledge that there are some issues that are then caused with an aggressive immigration plan like we have and that we're implementing. Okay. And we do talk about it all the time on the show. So let's see. So there was a Sudbury Star story yesterday that I wanted to get to if I could. Here it is, I believe. Sudbury Star. And you remember we played the video of the story from Valet where there was an anonymous letter. Well, yesterday's Sudbury Star, and it was a holiday, so we didn't have a show. An anonymous letter aired on television earlier this month that a trans man was showering in the men's washroom at a Valet mine site, and it was both inaccurate and harmful. So here's the person who was, I guess, not named, but alluded to in that news piece from CTV News. And they're kind of hitting back here in this Sudbury Star article. It's both inaccurate and harmful, says the person at the center of the controversy, and members of the local trans community who are reeling from the impact. In an interview with the Sudbury Star, the man says he never showered at the work site, only changed in the dry, despite a trans person having the legal right to use the gender-specific spaces that align with their gender identity. The anonymous letter writer said it made him uncomfortable and was compromising our marriages. That's what the person said on the CTV news story and the letter that he sent to CTV, that it compromised their marriages. And good morning, Diane. Thanks for being on. The trans man who is the focus of the letter is a college co-op student who spoke to the Sudbury Star on the condition of anonymity. He did not want or wish his name to be in the public for fear of further retaliation. After the broadcast aired on CTV, he said he was targeted by graffiti at work. He says the broadcast has left him shaken and exposed. At the same time, so Rita Olink, I think it is Rita Olink, a longtime trans advocate in the community, says the airing of the letter has legitimized discrimination, fueling those with anti-trans views, and the fallout is already being felt. So as you can see, that particular exchange now with the person writing the anonymous letter, saying they don't really feel comfortable naked, I guess, even in a shower or a change room. I guess showering or change room at this point, if they wouldn't have said showering, this particular person is saying it was wrong information. It was in the change room, not in the shower. So let's just say regardless of where it was, being naked alongside somebody at work is probably the same to those spouses, I'm sure. If they said, no, don't worry, it was just in the change room, it's not in the shower. Oh, okay, that's fine. It's okay now, kind of thing. So these types of things now are going to be discussed openly. Who do you think is going to win this argument, really, honestly? So going back to what we talked about earlier about standing up and, So honestly, who do you think's really going to win in this? Who has more people ready to get out there and stand up and fight for this? Right? And who has the legal system more behind them? And who has the media more behind them in this particular situation, do you think? Like, how do you think this, if you continue to poke that bear, seeing all the things that have been set up over the last few years legally, so you saw the person mention their legal right? Their legal right. At one time, it wouldn't have been a legal right, but laws have been changing over time, right? So if you really look at this being now in the media, you saw the person who put the white paint on the crosswalk downtown. What happened to him? He's probably I think he's still in jail, awaiting his sentencing, right? For putting white paint on a sidewalk. But it was the part of the sidewalk he put it on. So you talk about legal, and when you do something, when you stand up and use truth to power, kind of thing. It just is what it is. When I saw the story come out, I was like, yep, exactly. Now you'll really see who's got the real power. Someone stood up and said something to the media, and it's like, okay, they have a bit of a voice now, right? But again, the full brunt of the power of the community that they spoke up against, we'll see how much power they have, which they do. They got their flags in front of every major institution, government institution, all of our educational institutions. It's a powerful community now. You might hear it as said as victims, even in this article or whatever, but they flex their muscles, people are going to pay. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't stand up, or I guess, just clarifying things. I guess that's a form of standing up, is just shedding light on something and looking at it for what it really is. And that's all I'm doing. But they've spent years and years and years getting to a point where they can be one of the communities that are most in power. Get into the education system, get into the legal system, and change laws so that way they're more in favor of their position, right? And so if you have a problem with that, you are now a transphobe, right? You're a trans hater. Like I can see someone listening to what I'm saying right now and saying, I'm transphobic. Because that's what ends up happening in these conversations. Believe me, I just have a lot of experience with it. But I'm not. I'm explaining the situation just as it is. And I'm neither side in a way. I'm live and let live until it starts infringing on other people's rights. So I'm saying the person who put paint on that crosswalk was probably treated a little bit more harshly than, let's say, someone who stole a car or went 200 kilometers drunk on Highway 17, isn't even from this country, and just said sorry and got off with a $5,000 fine, right? So putting paint on a crosswalk is treated with a lot more, is looked at worse by our legal system, and punishment is worse for that particular person than it was for the person who wasn't even from Canada, who was here on a visa, who was drunk going 200 kilometers an hour and got in an accident on Highway 17 and just told the judge they're sorry. What if this person just said, oh, I'm sorry for putting paint? They wouldn't let him off, right? So again, like, this is just what's happening. This is what we're seeing. This is one little example in thousands and thousands and thousands of examples that if you're on to all of this stuff and you watch it every day, which unfortunately I have to, just to kind of keep up with stuff, it is what it is. And did I see a slogan here? It's Rogue Spear. So I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but woke is broke. And it's an interesting slogan. You hear slogans all the time in this day and age. But so you're talking about on a national scale, kind of what's happening here. I just have a few things that were lined up, but yeah, it's interesting. Let's just do Blender. Living in our world is just, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not meant to make a lot of sense. It's meant to be very divisive. And one of the books I read in school, which was really great, and I think they should continue to do that, which they're not, but it was 1984 by George Orwell. There was a lot of stuff in there. And George Orwell wrote that book knowing what the plans were for society and knowing the very few elite, what their plans were to shape our society. And kind of, I guess, in this book, just put it all out there and called it 1984 as if it was to take place in 1984. He wrote the book way before that, I believe in the 30s. So it's supposed to be 50 years in the future type of thing. This is what kind of world we're going to be living in. But Blender News, as usual, are able to really do their research and put things in perspective. So here's a little bit of what kind of things are going on behind the scenes in Canada today. So start thinking of some things that you can compare 1984 to Canada.
In George Orwell's 1984, the concept of doublethink is a cornerstone of authoritarian control, defined as the power of holding two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting both of them. Doublethink is not merely hypocrisy or denial, it is a willful act of cognitive dissonance demanded by the regime. This distortion of logic not only protects the party from contradiction, but also makes rebellion nearly impossible. If individuals lose the ability to identify contradictions, they lose the capacity to think critically and resist. Today, echoes of doublethink can be found in political doublespeak, media manipulation, and ideological conformity. For instance, we were told that freedom is slavery. During COVID, we were promised liberty if we just complied harder. More lockdowns, more masks, more forced injections. Give up your rights to get them back. We were told that war is peace. The path to peace in Ukraine apparently is to send billions in weapons and fuel an endless proxy war. We were told that ignorance is strength. The wise are no longer those who ask questions, but those who parrot the phrase, trust the science, without actually understanding a word of it. Equality is discrimination. we're told race shouldn't matter unless it's hiring, school admissions, or court rulings. Then it must be the deciding factor. Justice is blind, but only when it's convenient. Diversity is conformity. We're told to celebrate diverse identities, yet anyone who steps outside ideological orthodoxy is silenced. We must all look different, but think exactly the same. Tolerance is intolerance. In the name of uplifting minorities, we're told to despise the majority. One group's empowerment now demands another's shame. Apparently, men can get pregnant. Gender is supposedly a social construct, but biological men can now menstruate, breastfeed, and bear children. Science be damned. Democracy is authoritarianism. To protect it, we must censor speech, surveil citizens, and use wartime powers against peaceful protesters. Speech is violence, but violence is speech. Words are banned for being offensive, while riots and property destruction are justified as expression. Ultimately, doublethink is not just a literary invention, but a profound insight into how power can warp reality. Orwell's warning remains timeless. When truth becomes a tool of the powerful and contradiction becomes virtue, freedom dies not with a bang, but with a thought that cancels itself. In George Orwell's 19...
Okay, so I pretty much caught him that time. That was good. We're having issues with the next video playing a lot of times whenever I show that. But again, it does a really great job, right, of showing the connection between George Orwell's 1984, written in the 30s, I believe, and what's going on in Canada right now. It was really showing a lot of the comparisons between what George Orwell's 1984 had going on, all the concepts. One of them being doublespeak, doublethink. And there's more. Like if you really study 1984 and then really look at what's going on, it almost reads as a playbook for what's happening in our society, not just Canada, but the world. But I thought I saw someone here, I think it was Denise, saying that our country is being used as like an example first to let it happen in Canada. And Canada has been used as a guinea pig on more than one occasion. Did you know we had the internet pretty much? We were using the internet before the Americans were. You know, we had the debit card before the Americans. We were using debit before they were. A lot of things like that. Like they just kind of roll it out in Canada first to see how it goes. And then it comes out later after that, because we're so close to the Americans in our culture and in our society that they use us as a testing ground for a lot of things. And this is another blender, if you will, on the policies Canada's making, and do they make sense? You know, talked about a lot of policies that we're making. And you asked yourself if these make sense to you.
Liberal government just locked in their 2035 ban on gas-powered cars. Within a decade, you won't be allowed to buy a new gas-powered vehicle in Canada. Why? Well, Carney and the gang are claiming it's a bold step to save the planet, but that's just not true. Let's start with the obvious. Canada emits just 1.4% of global CO2 emissions. Transportation makes up just 28% of that, while EVs only reduce lifetime carbon emissions by about 24% compared to gas-powered cars. So even if we swapped every single vehicle for an EV overnight, the climate payoff would be 0.09% globally. So this isn't about the environment. As for the infrastructure required to power these EVs, according to the Fraser Institute, Canada will need up to an additional 95.1 terawatt hours to manage a nation of electric vehicles. That's more than 15% of our current capacity. We're talking about the equivalent of 10 new mega hydro dams or 13 large natural gas plants. That kind of overhaul takes decades, not 1 decade. And the cost? Natural Resources Canada estimates we'll need up to $294 billion in upgrades to support full EV adoption. So again, what's this really about? Well, control. The EV mandate is one piece of a much bigger puzzle intended to limit mobility. A puzzle that includes 15-minute cities, digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, and a growing web of censorship laws. You've heard about 15-minute cities, sold to you as a cute, eco-friendly neighborhood where everything you need is just a short walk away. What they don't tell you is that they're designed to limit your mobility, and this is not conspiratorial. It's literally the whole idea. Everything you need within 15 minutes. But what happens when you've exited your zone too many times? In the UK, they've launched multiple pilot projects called traffic filter systems, where if you exceed your permitted allowance of entrances and exits, you pay fines. something that will be much easier to enforce using digital IDs and your CBDC wallet, which of course will have other restrictions baked in. What is being pitched as convenient is actually a noose around your neck that the government can tighten if you don't play by their rules. Now add censorship to the mix. The Online Streaming Act, the Online News Act, and the pending Bill C-63, which proposes the subjective criminalization of hate speech. Every single one expands government control over what you can say, what you can see, and what platforms are allowed to share. That's not a coincidence. That's the narrative machine tightening its bolts and silencing dissent. And why are they doing this now? My guess is they know what's coming. In today's climate, housing is unaffordable, food prices are obscene, wages are stagnant, and the average family of 4 is going $8,000 further into debt every year just to survive in this country. However, what's coming could be a much bigger problem. A federal report from Policy Horizons Canada openly admits that by 2040, some Canadians may be foraging for food. Not because of some apocalyptic disaster, because of widening inequality. They describe a country split between haves and have-nots, where upward mobility is almost unheard of, and people are pushed to the edge just to survive. So, this is not about emissions or the climate. This is one piece of a mobility lockdown strategy disguised as environmental policy tied to a system of digital surveillance and economic control. It's a slow, methodical power grab by a government that knows the social contract is breaking and wants total control before people wake up.
So, sum it up, no? So there's some bills that they're passing, right? That's just a small example of some of the bills they're passing right now. Some have already passed. You can go on and on and on and on. Look at the bills. Look at why would you be passing things like this? Like, what are you expecting? Why do you need these bills to be passed right now? And they're just at a lightning speed. Like, they're just changing laws like you wouldn't believe. This country is not, like, literally overnight, going to be a totally different country in terms of its laws. And yeah. So, and we're in the middle of it. We're in the pot that the temperature of the stove is being turned up without our consent, basically. And the person, you're like in the pot, you're like, don't, we're going to boil if you keep turning it up. And someone just keeps cranking it up. And that's what's going on. So, and we're going to be living here and going through it. And a lot of us won't have a choice to even leave. So it's going to have to be something we're going to have to live with, this type of new country that's being formed under our noses. And so we'll see if people can connect and unite and rise together and stand for the kind of country that we had at one point, or even wanted to evolve in a more positive way than what we were, not in a negative way like it's going on now, where government has all this control, where we can't, our freedoms are limited, and all for in the name of things that don't even really exist when you really look at them. The boogeyman. There's a boogeyman over there, so you have to relinquish all your rights to this government that's going to use all these measures to control you. No? Well, you don't believe that? Well, look at all the bills they're passing. The bills they're passing are for ultimate control of the government over its citizens. Done. Oh, they're not for me, though. That's for all those bad MAGA people. All those Freedom Convoy people. That's what those laws are for. And that's unacceptable views. Okay, well, you'll see. You'll see. They're coming for them first and then you second. So, yeah. If a law is a law, if they can shut your bank account down for something you say and you go along with it and you allow it to happen. Just like Don Cherry, they allowed that to happen. Oh, because he was this, he was that. Well, eventually you had CBC hosts that are fired too for things they said. So it doesn't end there. It continues. If you allow it to one person, well, that's sure they did, it's not a good thing to do, but they did it to the right person, It's like the police in the United States where these guys do these shootings or whatever. They don't apprehend the person who did the shoot, whatever it is. Sorry I said that word. Now the algorithm's not going to like me. But the one who committed the crime, they don't just apprehend them anymore. They just annihilate them. They zap them. They do away with them. So they can't go to a court and we can't understand what caused the thing to happen in the first place. They're just gone. And then people say, well, they deserve it because they did all these horrendous things, No, that's not right. Regardless of what that person is doing, So we've become accustomed to being okay with things that aren't lawful as long as it's done to a person who deserves it in our minds. And then they change the laws, and eventually you are going to deserve whatever they want to do to you. And it's unfortunately already changed to the point of, I don't know. Once the boat turns around, it's hard to turn that boat back around, especially if you don't have control of the wheel. That's all the time we got for today. Guys, I appreciate you being on. Appreciate all the comments. I got them all up on the screen. Started off really well. We ended really well. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday, August the 5th. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. We'll be back same time, same place, on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. So have a safe Tuesday. Be good, everyone. And ciao for now.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.